Hey, what's up, everybody? So I wanted to do a follow-up on a video I did regarding T.I. and Tiny, and that video is about the sexual assault allegations currently against T.I. and Tiny. Now, if you're paying attention to pop culture or African American culture or hip hop news, you'll know that T.I. and Tiny have allegations against them that they sexually assaulted someone. And, because of this, they've actually had their VH1 reality series put on pause. And apparently, what's happened is that some unknown alleged victim has actually hired Lisa Bloom to basically represent them, right? So I wanted to do a quick analysis of this situation and just get you guys' opinion on what you think and what direction you think this thing is going to go. First, starting off, I just want to say these allegations, in my personal opinion, they could be true, they may not be true, but I'm going to say they started off on some complete. And the reason I say this, because this all started because of an altercation between Sabrina Peterson and T.I., allegedly. And allegedly, what's happened is that Sabrina Peterson got into an altercation with T.I., and T.I. pulled a gun on her or held a gun to her head. These are all allegations. Again, if you haven't seen my first video about T.I. and Tiny and the allegations against them, you want to pause this video here and go back and watch that video. That video is going to give you a context. What I've done is I've taken all the stories, or most of the stories that I was able to find on the internet at the time about the allegations, and I just put it all in one video for your consumption, right? So you'll hear testimony in that video of Sabrina Peterson basically saying that T.I. had a gun to her head, right? So those are the allegations. And it goes from that to Sabrina Peterson having someone come to her and accuse T.I. and Tiny of sexual assault. And it goes from there to basically that an unknown victim hiring Lisa Bloom to basically represent her. Now, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Lisa Bloom and her mother, Gloria, are at the forefront of this Me Too movement. So in my personal opinion, they kind of have a track record at this point of prosecuting people, not necessarily prosecuting, but basically ruining people's lives over these Me Too allegations, right? So already Bill Cosby has gone down, Harvey Weinstein has gone down, and basically Lisa Bloom and Gloria were at the forefront of those fallings for those celebrities, right? So Lisa Bloom has a track record, and based on that track record, I could see this going one or two ways. There's only one or two ways it could go, but based on her track record, in my personal opinion, I think she can get a settlement out of T.I. and Tiny up front. An out-of-court settlement up front. And the reason I say this is because, of course, she has a track record. And second, if T.I. and Tiny is smart, they will just go ahead and settle out of court. Because, first off, you have to realize that in this day and time, they don't need a serious allegation. Or they don't need, what's a better way to say this? In this day and time, they don't need a solid allegation. They don't. You can go to jail over a BS allegation in this day and time. That's the way things are right now. And even if you don't go to jail, you're going to have your business and your affairs interrupted. As we know, they've already paused their reality show, T.I. and Tiny Family Hustle. So they had to put that on pause, or maybe they were forced to put it on pause. I don't know. And that's one venture that he's not currently making money from. Maybe he was paid up front. I don't know, but that's one venture that should be rolling, and it's not. And at this point, him and T.I. are going to be tainted, and not many people are going to want to work with them until this gets resolved, right? So if the opportunity presents itself, T.I. and Tiny would be smart to settle out of court. Of course, that's my opinion. You let me know if you think differently. And of course, Lisa Bloom, I think because of her reputation, she can force them to settle out of court. And then conversely, of course, they can go to court. But again, Lisa Bloom has a track record. The judges know Lisa Bloom. And when they go into court, it's almost, she's going to have a head start just on reputation alone. And I don't know that I would want to be up against something like that. And it doesn't really matter if you're innocent, and it doesn't really matter if you're guilty, right? And I think so long as they have some of the details of the allegations right, they probably have a 70% chance out the gate of actually winning, a victory. And this is why I say that, so let's say there's a situation where you've had sex with someone, right? Or you've had sex with a woman. Let's just say it that way. In my personal opinion, all they have to do in the Me Too movement era is just go into court and just get the details of that sexual encounter correct, right? Get the apartment down, like, yeah, I was in this apartment, we were in this room, this is what he had on his bed, these are the positions we did, these are the places we were before we went back to his home, and then so on and so forth. This person came over at this time and interrupted us. All they have to do is just get some of those details right, and then they can just sprinkle on some, and bam, you're going to jail, just because you had sex. So all they have to do is get the details correct, and then all they have to say is something like, well, I told him I didn't want to have sex. He forced himself onto me. I couldn't stop him. I was afraid for my life, so I just decided to sit there and be quiet, right? That's all they have to say, and you're going to jail. You are going to jail, right? And it's up for you to basically say, unless you recorded the thing secretly, and you called her saying, yeah, give it to me, daddy, give it to me, ride this. Unless you caught them saying something like that on tape, you're going to jail. That's the way things are not right now. If you disagree with me, let me know. So if they have the details of the encounter and something that they can prove in court that it went down, plus Lisa Bloom's reputation, it's over. It's absolutely over. That's my own opinion here, right? So, yeah, so this can go one of two ways. There could be a settlement out of court. There could be a settlement, or you can go to court and you can lose, right? So I think that if they're smart, they'll settle out of court. They'll move on away from this quickly and just move on, right? I think we have, because of how crazy the Me Too movement is right now, I believe that we can no longer think guilty or innocent. This is my own personal opinion. We cannot think guilty or innocent. I believe we have to basically say, we have to take the mindset of how much of a chance do we have of getting a good settlement out of court, or what are our chances of winning in court? And in my personal opinion, if your chances are winning, of course that's my analysis, only T.I. and Tiny knows the facts of what went down, what happened, and then they have to talk to their lawyer, and they come up with a determination as to what they're going to do, right? But if they determine that they have something like a 10% chance or 5% chance of winning in court, you got to settle and just move on, and basically get your businesses back rolling again. Like I said, if I haven't said it already, T.I. and Tiny, they've basically put on pause their VH1 series, T.I. and Tiny Family Hustle. I don't know if that was forced on them or they had to put it on pause, but basically they can't handle their business until this is resolved. So if you can resolve it with a settlement and move on, my opinion, it's probably best to do that, right? So yeah, so this all started over some BS. Apparently, Sabrina Peterson had a gun pulled on her by T.I. These are all allegations. You can get the full story by watching the first video on my page. And it goes from that to Sabrina Peterson, having someone come to her and say, well, hey, look, T.I. and Tiny sexually assaulted me. So to me, this is just 100%. How do you go from, yeah, T.I. pulled a gun on my head to, oh, someone has come to me and said that they were sexually assaulted by T.I. and Tiny? To me, this just seems like you had some type of beef, an altercation, or a bad business deal with T.I. and Tiny. And because of that, you guys fell out and you had an altercation. I don't know if she did anything to T.I. to cause T.I. to pull a gun out on her. I don't know if T.I. just pulled a gun out on her just out of spite. I don't know I don't even know if there was even a gun involved, right? But the point is, you start off with an allegation that a gun was pulled on you, and then you go from that to just trying to totally destroy these people's lives by saying, oh, someone's come to me claiming sexual assault by T.I. and Tiny. How do you go from gun to my head to an anonymous person came to me saying that they were sexually assaulted by T.I. and Tiny? It's because this is all about sex and drugs. T.I. and Tiny, they're very successful, they're very wealthy, they have lots of money, and who am I to say, they can't have orgies? Well, who am I I'm not saying that they have orgies, but, the allegations is that T.I. and Tiny were at a hotel and they told everybody, look, we're about to pop Molly, do coke. If you're not down with that, leave, right? So that's the story. If you want the full details of that, go back to my page, look at the video, the first video I did about T.I. and Tiny and the sex allegations, and you'll get the details. But it's BS, because if you're in a hotel room with a group of people and they tell you, look, I'm about to pop Molly, do coke, and we all about to, and if you're not down with this, you can leave, then wouldn't you leave if you didn't want to be there? Would you stay? Like, how can you, this just doesn't even make any sense. Why would you stay if you're not down with that? You're gonna stay just to watch? Right? You want to, if you stand just to watch, that means you're a freak anyway. So it's just 100%. The story don't even sound right. We have to listen to these stories that these people are telling us and stop passing everything off as sexual assault. If anybody comes to me and say, yeah, I was in a hotel room and T.I. and Tiny told me to get out unless I was going to pop Molly and do coke, and I decided to stay, then how could you even think that person is credible? The story don't even sound right. The story just sounds stupid from the jump street. So if you stayed there, it's because you wanted to do coke, or you stayed there because you wanted to, have an orgy with T.I. and Tiny, or you stayed there because you were paid to do both. That's the only way a reasonable person is going to stay in a hotel. Anyone else, the only other way that a person is going to stay in a hotel and under those conditions is if they're slow, they're mentally ill. Yeah, I can see that as an excuse, right? That the person was mentally ill, or they were, retarded. And you know what? That's I shouldn't even say that. I'm gonna probably go back and try to delete that out. The only other way that a person stays in a hotel is if they have some type of learning disability. If a person has a learning disability or they're mentally challenged, then they probably were sexually assaulted, because that's the only way that you would stay in that hotel room. You either staying because you're down with it, you're down to clown, or you're staying because you're mentally ill, or you're slow and you don't understand what's happening. That's it. And me personally, I just think that T.I. and Tiny are wealthy and they're famous and they're just living their best life. Who am I to question whether or not they have orgies. Who am I to question whether or not T.I. has sex with multiple women? Who am I? That's their business. It's not your business to decide whether or not they have a right to have sex with multiple people. I actually believe they do have a right to have sex with whom and whoever they want to, but it's not of our business. That's their business, right? So I just think because they're rich and they're famous, people, and they can do things that the average person like me and you can't, people are taking this stuff and they're blowing out of proportion. They're taking these stories because they're extravagant, and because they're extravagant, they can go ahead and sprinkle some and think that people won't notice. But again, people, you have to question these stories that people are bringing to you and trying to get it passed off as sexual assault. Now, the other thing is that Sabrina may actually go down. First, let me take a step back. I think the sex that they had was consensual. I haven't heard anything at this point that would make me believe that it was non-consensual. Now again, I don't know the stories of these accusers. I don't know if there's any other accusers. The accusers very well could have a credible story. I just haven't heard it yet. I haven't heard any credible stories of sexual assault between T.I. and Tiny. I'm going to say that they're both innocent, but on the same token, again, this is the Me Too movement era. It's not about guilty or innocent. It's about what you can win in court, right? So the other funny thing about this is that Sabrina Peterson, may actually go down with the ship because apparently, allegedly, one of Tiny's friends allege, I think her name is Shakina. Shakina alleges that Sabrina Peterson had a role in these sex orgies, and Sabrina's role was actually recruiting to other women. So how in the hell is that gonna fly? You claiming T.I. pulled a gun to your head, and you want to blast it out all over social media. Now you're claiming that someone has come to you and said that T.I. sexually assaulted them, and come to find out, people are saying you took part in organizing these sex parties. That don't make sense. You just shot yourself in the foot. You finna go down with the ship. But then again, this is, the Me Too movement era, and prosecutors are handing out immunity. They may just want to take T.I. and Tiny down, and they may give her immunity and say, hey, look, we know that you were responsible for recruiting, such and such women for these sex parties. We're going to give you a pass, and we're going to, let you walk. The only thing we need is all the information you have about T.I. and Tiny and how they participate in these sex orgies and when and where they got their drugs from. You give us that information you want. I can see something like that happen, right? So Sabrina Peterson may walk, but then again, she may just go down with them. And personally, I just think it's just hate. It's just hate that, she would do something like this, simply to try to destroy the lives of T.I. and Tiny. Now again, let me say this. I don't condone sexual assault. I don't condone sexual abuse. I don't think it's right for women to be sexually assaulted or abused. However, again, we have to listen to what people are telling us, and we can't allow people to pass off these stories as sexual assault. At this point, everything that I've heard sounds like absolute. You're in a hotel. If I'm in a hotel and a bunch of women tell me that they're about to pop Molly and do coke, and then they specifically tell me to leave, if I'm not down with it, then I got one or two choices. Do Molly and coke and have sex with a bunch of women, or I gotta leave. That's it. So to me it sounds like what probably could have happened though. What probably could have happened is that maybe someone had buyer's remorse, or maybe someone felt they didn't get out of that situation what they felt they should have got out of it, right? Or maybe somebody felt disrespected out in that situation, and now they want to come back and claim sexual assault. To me, that's just what it seems, right? But to me, the story just don't even sound right. It sounds like I don't believe it was sexual assault. That's my opinion. I want to hear your opinion. Does it sound credible for a person to say, "Hey, I was sexually assaulted. T.I. and Tiny told me they was about to do coke and Molly, and they told me to leave if I wasn't down, and I stayed." Does it sound credible to you? Let me know. Questions and comments below. I want to know what you think about that whole situation. So right now, we don't know anything about this victim. This victim has hired Lisa Bloom. That in and of itself is going to be a lot of problems, create a lot of problems for T.I. and Tiny. I personally think that if they get the chance, go ahead and settle. I don't care if it's $5 million, just settle and move on with your life. And I've already stated the reasons why I believe that. Number one is because Lisa Bloom has a track record of destroying people's lives with this nonsense. And again, I retract the word nonsense. There are women out there who are sexually assaulted and abused, and they deserve to be protected, and they deserve to be heard. But this sounds like nonsense. This particular case at this point in time sounds like nonsense. If you have something credible, post it in the questions and comments below, and I'll look over it. But right now, it's just so Lisa Bloom has a track record of destroying people's lives. So that when they come to, when they go into court with these allegations, so that's one reason that they should probably just settle. And then they should also probably settle if they don't have any way of actually refuting the unknown person's testimony. It sounds like to me like the person is going to be able to say that, and I'm just guessing, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like to me that they probably will be able to say, well, hey, we did have sex. And they're probably going to remember some details about that encounter. All they got to do, in my personal opinion, at this point, is just sprinkle a little, pepper it with a little, and it's basically on. All they have to do is say, yeah, it wasn't consensual, And unless, they were recorded, or T.I. and Tiny can bring somebody else in to say that it was consensual, then, these cases become hard to beat. So those are the two reasons I say they should actually settle. But at this point, we don't know who the victim, the unknown alleged victim is, right? So the other thing is that, there could possibly be some criminal charges. And I would say that that's something that they really need to be worried about. I guess they shouldn't worry about it because there's nothing they can do about it, right? How does that poem say? God help me to change the things I can change and accept the things I can't change. I think at this point, with all the buzz on social media, the law enforcement agency has to have seen these allegations. I'm pretty sure someone has probably forwarded it over to them, or they just saw it, or Lisa Bloom herself has gone to the authorities, right? So if this has happened, then there's nothing you can really do to worry about it. The only thing you can do is just go ahead and get a lawyer and work with your legal defense team. Not get a lawyer, but shit, I would probably get 2 or 3 lawyers, I'd probably go and get me a fledgling lawyer, somebody just graduated out of law school, and then I'd probably go and get 2 or 3 experienced lawyers. Probably 2 or 3 fledgling lawyers, and then 2 or 3 experienced lawyers. You always need somebody to do leg work and do errands and things like that, and go and file things. And I wouldn't want to pay my experienced lawyers to do that, because I want to control how much money is spent on this case. But nonetheless, they need a team. forget the money. Actually, they need a team. They need like the X-Men to come in and come and litigate. Because they're in trouble. But after you hired the legal team, I wouldn't worry about it. But the criminal charges are a distinct possibility, and unfortunately, at this point, there's nothing that they can actually do about it. That this is my thoughts on these allegations. We'll see where it goes and how it goes from here. I guess we just got to pray for them. But again, as we know, this is the Me Too movement era, and you don't need a well-founded allegation in order to screw somebody's life up. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your questions and comments below, and please like, share, and subscribe.